So today I want to talk about my top 5 favorite aquarium fish and some interesting details about them. But first, some really exciting news. The ultimate do-it-yourself handbook for the do-it-yourself aquarist is now shipping internationally. It will ship anywhere in the world with free shipping included. Now, I'm not sure how long I'm going to be able to offer the free shipping. However, I was able to negotiate it for the rest of this month. So if you want to get a copy, get it now. You can get your copy at thekingofdiy.com or just click the link in the description below. Okay, so my top 5 favorite aquarium fish. This is how this video is going to work. I can always list my top 3 favorite aquarium fish no matter what. They're always the same top 3 and they're always in the same order. Number 4 and 5, well, that can be a little tricky, especially if I expand the list to top 10, top 15, top 20. That will always vary depending on the time of my hobby and what I'm currently interested in. However, this list will focus on my top 3 favorite of all time. Number 4 deserves that spot because it's more of a sentimental fish to me, and number 5 is included simply because I'm really enjoying keeping it right now. Let's start with number 1 and work our way down. Number 1, if you guessed the Asian Arowana, you're absolutely correct. Now, the Asian Arowana, in my opinion, for a number of reasons, is the absolute king of the aquarium hobby. Get back here. There's really no other fish in the hobby as highly sought after as the Asian Arowana. Now, you guys are really familiar with this individual fish. He's appeared in many of my videos. What I want to talk about today with this guy, though, is top questions that I get about him. Mainly, is it a boy or a girl? Why don't you have other Asian Arowana in there with him? Or why don't you breed it? The answers to that are surprisingly obvious. Let's start with why I don't have a tank full of Asian Arowana. First and foremost, this is one of the most expensive aquarium fish in the world. Some of them reaching into the thousands and thousands of dollars. For this variant of Asian Arowana, which is a blue-based crossback, you can expect to pay anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000. So hopefully that answers your question as to why I don't have several. Now, if I were to have 2, chances are they would fight to the death, unless they are a mated pair. But even having a male and female Arowana in there doesn't guarantee anything. Arowana community tanks do exist though. However, they exist with numbers exceeding 7 Asian Arowana in the same tank, in a relatively smaller tank as well. Imagine me buying 7 fish and paying $2,000 a piece. We're talking $14,000. So obviously the costs are prohibitive for me. If they weren't, I would definitely have an Asian Arowana community. Why don't I breed it though? That's a really interesting question. For one, I don't know what this is. Is it a male or is it a female? We'll get into sexing in a second, but not knowing what you have, how are you supposed to know what to buy? I guess I could take the chance and buy another Asian Arowana that's the same size as this guy, which at 8 inches I could expect to pay about $2,000 for this fish, but at 22 inches, shipping becomes a lot more difficult and the price can potentially skyrocket. So not only do I have to cross my fingers and hope that I can find a fish that is a suitable size, but is also the opposite sex. Plus, the odds of getting along and becoming a mated pair are pretty slim. So how do you sex an Asian Arowana though? Well, like I said, I'm not sure what this one is. And by sure, I mean 100% sure. I can come to about 70% sure on its sex, but not 100. An Asian Arowana that is a year old or younger are impossible to sex. Even the farms can't do it. And since they take between 3 and 5 years to reach sexual maturity, it becomes even more difficult to tell their sex. Now mine is about 4 years old, which is a good age and size to determine its sex. Now to be clear, there's a number of ways to do it, but none of them are for sure. There are the typical indications of being able to tell the sex, like the female should have a smaller head, shorter gill plates, and a wider body. And on that same note, the male is said to have a larger jaw because it's a mouth brooder. When the female lays the eggs, the male fertilizes them and then carries them in his mouth. Now because they do that, they've developed a larger jaw. Males will also make a croaking noise. Now I've never heard it, but I've also never had a breeding pair of Arowana for him to be able to display that. But even that isn't for sure. And it doesn't help that I only have 1 Arowana with no other guaranteed sex to compare it to. However, in recent years there's been a couple of farms that have collaborated and combined their knowledge on sexing Asian Arowana, and they've come up with the Arowana Gender Index. Now the Arowana Gender Index is essentially a mathematical equation based off the dimensions of the Arowana's head. And it looks like this. In centimeters, if you measure the head height and add it to the length of the head, then multiply that number by the length of the head and the width of the head, and then finally divide all of that by the height of the head, you'll get a number. Now they say that if your number is below 111, it means it's a female. If it's above 111, it means it's a male. And these farms say that it's about 70% accurate, but again, it's not 100% accurate. And for a guy like me that can't really afford to take chances on fish that cost thousands of dollars, it's just not accurate enough. But for fun, let's apply this equation to this fish and figure out what it's more likely to be. The width of this guy's head is 2.5 inches, or 6.35 centimeters. The length is 4.5 inches, or 11.5 centimeters. The height of its head is 3 inches, or 7.6 centimeters. Now those are just rough estimates, but they're going to be close enough. So if I apply these numbers to the equation, I get 187.85, which is well above 111, giving it a strong indication that this is a male. But we can only be 70% sure. Now, how do you be 100% sure on the Asian Arowana? Well, interesting enough, about 2 years ago, there was a patent submitted for a new device that can tell the sex of an Asian Arowana. I'm not sure if that ever came to be, or how much that procedure would cost, but it's based on profiling the DNA of the Arowana, basically sampling its blood, and determining sex by looking at its DNA sequence. So there you have it, we know he's probably a male, and you know why I only have one and not a pair or a community of them. Number 2 favorite aquarium fish is freshwater stingrays. Now when I first heard about the fact that there was such thing as freshwater stingrays, I found it entirely interesting. However, when I seen my first freshwater ray in person, I was entirely captivated. I decided to spend the next 2 years researching rays and properly preparing for them. I finally got my first ray, and then got a couple more. I ended up with a pair of Motoro rays, which eventually bred in the tank, and then got my hands on a Boesemani stingray. Now at the time, this fish was just discovered and scientifically described in 2009, and it was 2011 when I got the Boesemani. And it was only months after it first became available to the public. However, only one importer was bringing them in, and he was only bringing in a handful at a time. So a very limited amount of people had them. About a year went by and one of my Motoros impregnated the Boesemani, making my Boesemani the first ray of that species to breed in captivity. Now if we rewind time back far enough, I originally got extremely interested in rays because of the Leopoldi rays, which are the black rays with white dots. And during my research I found out that these guys are really expensive, and because of how much they cost, you shouldn't start out with them. Although they aren't difficult to keep in the spectrum of all rays. It's just their costs that are prohibitive. So all during my research and then starting getting into rays, I knew that one day this would all lead up to me getting some Leopoldi rays. Eventually I bought a house and we needed to move. I decided what I would do is sell my rays and get rid of all my aquariums to make the move a lot easier. But with the undertone of, this is my opportunity to build a much larger tank and finally get those Leopoldi rays. And I did. Built a 540-gallon aquarium and got the rays. I raised them from small pups up until sexual maturity when they started to breed. Now the female did have a premature birth, but sometimes that happens when they're starting out. With that said, all of those years of research and practicing and keeping other less expensive rays had finally reached this point. Until one day a faulty heater exploded in my sump, poisoning the rays and killing them. This happened over a year and a half ago, and I've since gotten over it. I did make a video telling the story of what happened though. At that time I was so devastated I was even considering getting out of the hobby. It took me well over a year just to talk about it. With that said, I am getting more rays. I don't actually have any rays right now, contrary to a lot of the rumors I'm hearing, but I do have plans on it. Perhaps in the new year you'll see some. My third favorite aquarium fish, the discus. Now these guys have been long referred to as the king of the aquarium, however, like I said, the Asian Arowana easily takes that title. Discus are far too dainty and pretty and delicate to be a king. Maybe a princess. But discus are in my top 3 for obvious reasons. They're highly rewarding fish and extremely beautiful. In my time I've kept them in planted tanks, community aquariums, and then got into some breeding. I kept discus for about 10 years before deciding I'm going to take a break from them. Now I do have plans to get back into discus, but it might not happen until mid next year. If you guys remember that 100-gallon aquarium that I showed you I was going to build, well that tank is going to be used as a quarantine and grow out system for some other fish I'm going to get. Once they're done with that tank, I plan to turn it into a planted tank, but furthermore I was thinking about turning it into a planted discus tank. We'll see how that turns out. Number 4 on the list is the Walru. Walru amphicanthoides is its Latin name. If you're not familiar with this fish, you should be. It's my channel name. If you look at the URL of my channel, it's youtube.com/warujoey. U-A-R-U is pronounced waru. Now this is a South American cichlid, and it goes by a few common names. I'm not sure if it does anymore, but at one point it was referred to as the triangle cichlid or the poor man's discus. Now this fish is interesting to me for a number of reasons, and also being the sentimental fish on my list. It's the sentimental fish on my list simply because at the time I created this channel, I was keeping waru. I had a nice little group and one of them was a pair, continuously laying eggs and at one point got to wigglers, but never any further. Now at that time, YouTube was a whole different place. You see, I just used to upload random fish videos to YouTube to host them. It was never anything more than that to me. Now I used to always forget my username and passwords to log back in to upload more videos, and at that time, it was easier to create a brand new account than to recover your old one. So like everybody else, I was just trying random names. Joey, Joey123, and so forth. Until I looked over at my aquarium that was right beside my computer, seen the waru, and decided maybe I'll try Waru Joey. And it worked. So what makes the waru an interesting fish in the first place, and why was I keeping them? Obviously they are a pretty drab looking fish, not very colorful, and nothing really stands out about them. However, their transformation from a juvenile to an adult is absolutely incredible. You see, when they're very young, they have a camouflaged color pattern. Over time, they start getting some dotting, and the camouflage starts to dissipate. Their main body color will turn a gray or maybe an olive green, and they'll develop a black triangle right down the middle of their body. Now, as adults, they can get up to about 10 inches, so this is actually a pretty big cichlid. However, they're extremely docile for the most part, and unlike a lot of other South American cichlids, these guys love a lot of vegetable matter in their diet. One of their favorite treats is romaine lettuce. So why would they be called the poor man's discus though? Well, for a number of more interesting reasons. One, they come from same areas as the discus, and require the same type of water quality, perimeters, and even a very similar diet. So they come with all the difficulties of keeping discus, but none of the looks. The even more interesting fact about these guys is that they share a trait in common with the discus that only 3 fish in the world do. And that has to do with their breeding. You see, when a discus lays eggs and they hatch, the fry feed off the parent's body slime. You guys will have seen this before. It's extremely well-known fact that that's what happens. Waru fry do the same thing. So now you can tell why they're called the poor man's discus. They have a tremendous amount in common with them, and they cost a lot less. Now, it's been years since I've actually kept waru. I've simply moved on to other fish, but I have been contemplating getting them again. So waru is the sentimental fish to me on this list. However, it is a highly interesting and rewarding fish to keep. So number 5 on the list, what is my current 5th favorite fish? Well, again, it depends on when you ask me. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have gave you a different answer. Or 5 years ago, I would have gave you a totally different answer. If you ask me today, number 5 is the goldfish that I currently keep. As simple as it might sound, I've been really enjoying this aquarium. And why not? It's a pretty big tank, 370 gallons, built right into the wall, with about 30 fancy goldfish, a nice aquascape, it's easy to maintain, and it's really cheap to run. Plus, it's a tank that's constantly active. Setting this tank up as a goldfish tank has truly made me appreciate the simplicity of goldfish even more. So that's been my top 5 favorite aquarium fish as of right now. And now it's your turn. I'd like to hear what your top 5 favorite fish is as of right now. Just leave them in the comment section below. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If not, join me next week and I'll have something different for you.